When people think about the history of Christianity, they often imagine its spread through the Roman Empire, Europe, and later across the world. Arabia, in contrast, is usually associated with the rise of Islam in the 7th century. But long before Islam emerged, Christianity had already taken root in various parts of the Arabian Peninsula. This early Christian presence in Arabia is often overlooked, partly because later historical developments overshadowed it, and partly because the surviving records are scattered and incomplete. Yet when we piece together the available evidence, inscriptions, archaeological remains, and references in ancient texts, a fascinating picture appears. Arabia was not isolated from the religious transformations of the ancient world. It was connected through trade, migration, and cultural exchange, and within those connections, Christian communities formed, adapted, and sometimes flourished. To understand how Christianity reached Arabia, it is important to see the peninsula not as a distant desert, but as a crossroads of civilizations. Trade routes known as the incense routes connected southern Arabia to the Mediterranean world. Caravans carried frankincense, myrrh, spices, and other goods northward, linking cities in Yemen with places like Petra, Gaza, and Damascus. Along these routes traveled not only merchants, but also ideas, beliefs, and stories. By the time Christianity began spreading beyond its origins in the Levant, these networks were already well established. This meant that Arabian communities were exposed to new religious ideas earlier than one might expect. Christianity likely entered Arabia in multiple ways, rather than through a single event. Some of the earliest influences came from neighboring regions, where Christianity had already taken hold. The Roman and Byzantine empires to the north had become increasingly Christian by the 4th century. Missionaries, traders, and travelers moving along frontier zones carried their faith into Arabian territories. In the northeast, near the Persian Gulf, Christian communities were influenced by the Church of the East, which developed under the Sasanian Persian Empire. In the south, connections with Ethiopia, where Christianity had become established in the Kingdom of Aksum, played a major role. These overlapping influences meant that Christianity in Arabia was not uniform. Different regions developed distinct traditions shaped by their contacts with surrounding powers. One of the most significant centers of Christianity in Arabia was the city of Najran, located in the southwestern part of the peninsula. By the 5th and 6th centuries, Najran had become a well-known Christian community with churches, clergy, and a strong religious identity. Historical sources describe Najran as a place where Christian belief was deeply rooted in local society. The people there were not simply passive recipients of a foreign religion. They had integrated Christianity into their own cultural framework. This made Najran an important example of how global religions could adapt to local contexts. The history of Najran also reveals the challenges faced by Christian communities in Arabia. In the early 5th century, the Himyarite kingdom, which ruled much of southern Arabia, underwent a major religious shift. Its ruler, often identified as Du Nuwas, adopted Judaism and launched a campaign against the Christian population of Najran. According to historical accounts, many Christians were persecuted and killed for refusing to abandon their faith. This event, remembered in both Christian and Islamic traditions, highlights the complex religious dynamics of the region. Arabia was not a place where a single belief dominated. It was a landscape of competing traditions, including various forms of paganism, Judaism, and Christianity. The persecution in Najran eventually drew the attention of the Christian kingdom of Aksum in Ethiopia. In response, Aksumite forces invaded southern Arabia and defeated the Himyarite ruler, establishing a period of Christian influence over the region. This intervention demonstrates how interconnected the ancient world had become. Events in Arabia could trigger responses from across the Red Sea, showing that religious identity and political power were closely linked.
Under Aksumite rule, Christianity gained renewed strength in parts of southern Arabia, although this control did not last indefinitely. Later, the Sasanian Persians would intervene, bringing the region under their influence and further complicating its religious landscape. Beyond Najran and southern Arabia, evidence of Christianity appears in other parts of the peninsula as well. In the north, Arab tribes living along the borders of the Byzantine Empire sometimes adopted Christianity, especially those who served as allies or client states. These tribes acted as intermediaries between imperial powers and the Arabian interior. Their conversion to Christianity was often influenced by political relationships as much as spiritual conviction. Churches and monasteries were established in desert regions, serving both religious and practical functions. Monks and hermits became part of the cultural fabric, living in isolated communities while maintaining connections with broader Christian networks.
In the eastern regions of Arabia, near the Persian Gulf, Christian communities developed under the influence of the Church of the East. Archaeological discoveries, including churches and inscriptions, suggest that Christianity had a stable presence in areas such as Bahrain and along the Gulf Coast. These communities were part of a wider network that extended into Persia and beyond. Trade routes connecting India, Mesopotamia, and Arabia facilitated not only economic exchange, but also religious interaction. Christian merchants and clergy moved along these routes, establishing communities that reflected both local traditions and broader theological developments. Despite this widespread presence, Christianity in Arabia did not dominate the peninsula as it did in parts of Europe or the Byzantine Empire. Instead, it existed alongside other religious traditions in a diverse and often fluid environment. Many Arabian communities continued to follow traditional polytheistic practices, worshiping local deities and maintaining tribal rituals. Judaism also had a significant presence, particularly in regions like Yathrib, later Medina. This diversity meant that religious identity in Arabia was not always fixed. Individuals and groups could be influenced by multiple traditions, creating a complex cultural landscape. By the early 7th century, when Islam began to emerge, Arabia was already familiar with monotheistic ideas. Stories from the Bible, concepts of prophecy, and the belief in a single God were not entirely new to the region. Christian and Jewish communities had introduced these ideas over centuries of interaction. This context helps explain why certain themes in early Islamic teachings resonated with existing beliefs, while also presenting a new and distinct message. The presence of Christianity in Arabia before Islam was therefore not just a historical detail, it was part of the environment in which Islam developed. As Islam expanded across Arabia and beyond, the position of Christian communities changed. In some areas, Christians gradually converted to Islam over generations. In others, they continued to exist as minority communities under Muslim rule. The process was not uniform or immediate. It unfolded over time, shaped by political, social, and economic factors. Some Christian traditions in Arabia eventually disappeared, while others survived in neighboring regions. The memory of early Christian Arabia faded in many narratives, overshadowed by the rapid growth of the Islamic world. The hidden history of Christian Arabia reminds us that religious landscapes are rarely simple or static. Before the rise of Islam, Arabia was already part of a broader network of ideas and beliefs connecting Africa, the Mediterranean, and Asia. Christianity was one of those influences, leaving traces in cities, trade routes, and communities across the peninsula. These traces may not always be visible in popular accounts of history, but they remain an important part of understanding how religions interact, spread, and evolve. Looking back, it becomes clear that Arabia's religious history cannot be reduced to a single narrative. It was a region of movement and exchange, where different traditions met,
competed and sometimes blended. The story of Christianity in Arabia is one chapter in that larger history, a chapter that shows how even in places often considered isolated, global forces were at work, shaping the beliefs and identities of people. By exploring this hidden past, we gain a deeper appreciation of the complexity of the ancient world and the many paths through which faith traveled long before it became associated with specific regions or civilizations.